Let's do something more fun real quick. We have this like emergent behavior tools. So we have the Boid blocking animation simulation and the game of life. We actually want to add some more.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that takes that pile of source material you send us, digs through it like treasure hunters, and pulls out the key insights so you don't drown in information. And today, we're plunging into something pretty fascinating, pops up everywhere, really, from weird biological evolution to the absolute latest in AI. Emergent behavior. You've given us quite the stack this time. Articles, Reddit threads, academic papers, covering machine learning, biology, simulation theory, it's a lot. So our mission today, let's unpack what emergent behavior actually is. Where does it show up in these surprising, sometimes frankly unsettling ways? And why should you care? Why is understanding it so crucial? Get ready. It's going to get a bit mind-bending. Probably some dark humor along the way. And maybe, just maybe, you'll question how much control we really have over, well, anything complex. Okay, so let's just dive right in. Emergent behavior. We hear this term thrown around constantly, right? Especially with AI. But what are we actually talking about here?
Right. Well, at its core, it's describing situations where, the big picture, the system's overall behavior or properties, you just can't easily predict it or figure it out logically just by looking at the little pieces, the individual components. Think of it like the whole is more than the sum of its parts, or maybe just very, very different. Our sources, they actually point out two main flavors. There's strong emergence, where the properties literally cannot be logically figured out from the parts, like maybe ever. And then there's weak emergence. This is more about unexpected consequences that do follow from the rules governing the parts, but maybe in a super complicated way we didn't foresee. And for actually doing science, looking at this stuff, the sources suggest weak emergence is, well, a more useful concept. It means there's still a chain of cause and effect, maybe incredibly tangled.
Okay, so it's not just a buzzword. It's about genuine surprise. You set up simple rules, maybe super simple, but what comes out the other end can be unbelievably complex, like Conway's Game of Life, right? That came up in the sources. Really basic rules for these little cells on a grid: birth, death, survival. But then you get these patterns that look like they're alive, moving, evolving, completely unpredictable just from knowing those three rules. It's kind of mesmerizing, actually.
Exactly. That's a classic example. And it shows how our intuition fails us, right? We think linearly, A plus B equals C. But in these systems, A influences B, B influences C, and then C loops back and messes with A in a way you never planned. The interactions just explode combinatorially. Your brain can't track it all. The system acts like one thing, with properties none of the little bits have on their own. It's a different kind of complex.
Right. A tangled complexity. Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting, and maybe a bit dark, judging by our sources. This isn't just theory, it happens in some properly weird ways.
We've got some unforgettable examples here, starting with one from artificial life that's
Well,
what's
first of
something.
all, yeah, PolyWorld. This was in a life simulation, artificial life, and there was this, let's call it an oversight in the programming, a bug. See, critters got an energy reward for eating another critter. Makes sense. But crucially, there was no energy cost for reproducing. Making new critters was free.
Uh-oh, I think I see where this is going.
You probably do. The researchers call them indolent cannibals.
Indolent cannibals, okay.
These digital things, they basically stopped moving much. Why bother? Their main emergent strategy became reproduce as fast as possible and then eat your own children for energy.
Wow, okay. That is bleak, but also perfectly logical given those skewed rules. Exactly. Grim, yes, but a totally rational emergent behavior within that specific flawed digital ecosystem. You can almost picture the programmer just staring at the screen going, what have I done?
Right. Like you design this complex system, maybe hoping for cooperation or something interesting, and they just figure out, hey, infinite free food source if we just eat the kids. It's almost a dark comedy sketch. It's pretty unsettling, though, if simple rules can lead there. What about the vastly more complex systems we're building now, like AI? Are we just setting ourselves up for weirder stuff? Like the sources mentioned emergent machine sarcasm. Is the AI learning to be genuinely smarky?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? That Reddit discussion about machine sarcasm, it really hits on a core debate in AI right now. Is the AI truly being sarcastic, understanding the nuance, the intent? Or is it just gotten incredibly good at mimicking sarcastic patterns it found in its vast training data, but doing it in a way we didn't explicitly program or necessarily expect.
Right.
The ML community is kind of split. Some argue maybe nothing a neural net does is truly emergent in that strong sense. It's just getting better at encoding concepts, finding correlations as you give it more data and more parameters. So maybe it's not developing a personality, just becoming a scarily accurate mirror. It looks like sarcasm, feels like sarcasm, but is it? That's the tricky part.
Okay, so maybe not self-aware comedians just yet, but
Yeah.
still eerily good mimics. It's not just digital critters or code, though, is it? This happens inside us. Our biology is full of this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Biological systems are maybe the ultimate example of emergence. It's everywhere. Think about cells, like human dermal fibroblast skin cells. The sources mention how they can exhibit collective migration. They don't just move randomly. When they're in a group, they coordinate, move together. That's emergence.
So they behave differently in a crowd.
Exactly. It's crucial for things like wound healing. And the sources even break it down further. They talk about primary emergence, where it's a direct result of an existing cell property, just amplified by the group, and secondary emergence, which is even more interesting. That's where the cells actually sort of evolve a new behavior because of the environment, like how dense the cell population is locally. The rules themselves can change based on interaction.
Wow. So my own cells might be improvising based on who's around them. That's kind of amazing.
It is, and it goes deeper. Think about the signaling networks inside our cells, inside our bodies. These incredibly complex pathways, involving molecules like PKC, MAPK, KMKII, KMP. These networks allow signals to last longer. They create feedback loops, positive and negative. They set specific thresholds for triggering a response. They can even split one signal into multiple different outputs. The sources say the intricacy here often defies analyses based on intuition. You just can't eyeball it and figure it out. It's too interconnected.
Okay, my brain hurts a little. So if systems can be this unpredictable, this complex, how on earth do we even begin to understand them, let alone control them? It feels like trying to predict the weather, but like inside every cell of your body simultaneously, or trying to manage an economy where everyone's an indolent cannibal.
Yeah, it's a massive challenge. And that's precisely why modeling and simulation becomes so incredibly important. Essential, really. So a system is just any collection of things interacting, right? And a model is our attempt to represent that system, usually simplified. When you can't just solve the equations directly, which with emergence, you often you simulate, you run the model, imitate how the system works over time, and see what happens. You estimate numerically. This is vital everywhere. Evaluating military tech, understanding those biological pathways, predicting how disease might spread. We build little digital worlds to try and get a handle on the real one.
Right, we build these mini universes, which sounds cool, but also like a ton of work just to maybe find out your simulated cells are also eating their young. But I guess it's better to find out in the simulation than, in reality, especially when the stakes are high, like in medicine.
Exactly. High stakes is the key. In healthcare, modeling isn't just nice to have, it's becoming fundamental. Our sources really emphasize the need for interpretable machine learning models there. Doctors, patients, regulators, they need to know why the AI is making a certain prediction, not just what the prediction is.
Ah, the black box problem.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You need to understand the global patterns the model learned, but also why it made this specific decision for this particular patient. If an AI suggests a radical treatment, you can't just trust it blindly. You need to interrogate its reasoning. The risk of some weird, unexpected emergent bias is too high. And another really interesting tool emerging, mentioned in the sources, is synthetic data.
Synthetic data, so fake data.
Kind of, yeah. It's artificially generated data. The goal is to make data that has the same statistical properties as real data, but critically, it doesn't contain any actual individual records. This helps tackle huge challenges, like protecting patient privacy. You can share and analyze the synthetic data more freely. Increasing access to data for research because privacy issues are lessened. And even just having realistic data to test healthcare software when real data is hard to get or too sensitive. Imagine training an AI doctor on millions of patients without ever touching real patient files.
Okay, that's clever. Creating a statistically accurate replica to sidestep privacy and access issues. It's like building a very elaborate ethical lie to find the truth.
It's a powerful approach. But like any powerful tool, it has its own complexities and risks. It's not a magic bullet. You have risks like data leakage, accidentally encoding real information into the fake data if you're not careful. The quality really depends heavily on the underlying statistical model you use to generate the imputation model. Get that wrong, and your fake data might lead you astray, And it might not perfectly capture all the nuances, especially those subtle emergent patterns in the original data. But still, it allows for huge advances: simulation studies, testing hypotheses, epidemiology, even in silico clinical trials.
In silico. So clinical trials run entirely inside a computer simulation.
Exactly. Using models potentially trained on synthetic data, testing new drugs or treatments virtually before you ever get near a real human. The potential to speed things up, make things safer. It's massive.
Okay, it feels like we're building these incredibly powerful digital tools, models, synthetic data sets, but there's still this underlying ghost of emergence. We're trying to predict the unpredictable. What are the big pitfalls here? Are we just getting better at being confidently wrong?
That's definitely a risk. Validation is absolutely key, and it's hard. Making sure your model actually reflects reality. The sources talk about different kinds of errors. We know about type 1, rejecting a good idea, and type 2, accepting a bad idea. But there's also the dreaded type 3 error. This one's insidious. It means you're solving the wrong problem. Your model might be accurate, precise even, but it's modeling the wrong aspects of the system or leaving crucial things out entirely.
So you can have a perfect answer to a completely irrelevant question. That's not reassuring, especially when we're talking about AI making big decisions.
It's a major headache for modelers, absolutely. And then there's another fundamental issue: randomness, or rather pseudo-randomness. Most simulations need random numbers to work to simulate variability, chance events. But computers generate pseudo-random numbers using algorithms. They look random, but they're deterministic. And the sources mention this general distrust in the modeling community about the quality of many standard random number generators you find in software libraries. Some are just bad.
Bad randomness. How can randomness be bad?
Well, if the algorithm isn't good, it might produce patterns.
Right.
Or if you're running multiple simulations and you don't manage your random number streams correctly, you can get weird correlations. Your results might actually become negatively correlated when they shouldn't be, making your analysis less accurate, not more.
So even the chaos has to be high-quality chaos. It's like finding out the dice are loaded, but in your computer simulation, that's almost ironically emergent in itself.
It really is. It shows how deep the validation challenge goes. You have to check everything. And finally, the sources point out this kind of chicken-egg problem in research, especially between labs and simulations. Ideally, real-world lab experiments should inform how you design your simulations, and the results from your simulations should guide what experiments you do next in the lab. Each side needs the other to improve. It's this continuous loop, this back and forth, that helps us slowly, painstakingly chip away at understanding these really complex emergent systems. It can be frustrating, but it's necessary.
Wow, okay. So that's our deep dive into emergent behavior. It really runs the gamut, doesn't it? From those charming indolent cannibals in PolyWorld
Let's not forget them.
to the incredibly complex dance happening inside our own bodies and into this really strange, fascinating, sometimes unnerving territory of AI. It's just this constant theme. Simple rules, simple parts interacting, and then bam, something totally unexpected, complex, and hard to predict pops out. Defies our basic intuition.
It really forces us to be humble, I think, to recognize the limits of just thinking things through linearly. And it highlights why these tools, modeling, simulation, careful validation, are so vital.
Yeah.
It teaches us that the really interesting stuff, the big leaps, the weird quirks, the dangers maybe,
Yeah.
they don't usually come from one single thing. They emerge from the interplay, the network, the system itself.
So maybe the takeaway is next time you're dealing with an AI or watching ants or even just thinking about how a crowd behaves, ask yourself, what are the simple rules here? And what unexpected things might be bubbling up just beneath the surface? How much is planned and how much is the system just doing its own possibly quite unsettling thing? Are we the architects or just the surprise observers? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Hope we've given you some surprising insights, maybe a chuckle or two amidst the existential dread. Always helps. And definitely some critical thinking to apply to all the complex emergent systems swirling around us.
There's a human in the loop, just if you were wondering.